Hunted by ScoobiSnacc. Kagar made his way through the crowd, his mind set on his next delivery. As he walked, he turned his head 207 degrees, cautiously surveying his surroundings. As a Xila, the thousands of small bones in his body allowed him a great degree of flexibility. Combined with a 3-chambered heart and adhesive setae on his hands and feet, the Xila were especially elusive, a necessity considering the predators on his native planet. Perfect for survival and perfect for his line of work. Kagar saw nothing suspicious. Still, he clenched the package and held it close. Not only was this narcotic highly illegal, but the client had requested a very particular narcotic that was difficult to obtain on this backwater slum world. As he arrived at the designated bar, he gazed around once more. No patrols, no observers, plenty of places to hide, enough room to run, and the wretched stench of the slums would mask his scent. Kagar made his way inside and looked among the patrons, searching for a human. Humans were the newest species to join the galaxy, yet even among the multiple sapients, humans stood out. No tentacles, scales, feathers, fur, except on their heads and faces, and no claws, venom, webbing for swimming, setae, or natural armor. Kagar dimly remembered hearing a galactic report on human physiology and something about unique thermoregulation and heart chambers, though he cared little for such details. How such a hideous and ill-equipped species survived to reach a Tier 1 civilization level, Kagar did not know. But as hideous as they were, this one was paying, and that's all that mattered. Near the back exit, Kagar spotted him, a lone human sitting at the bar. Kagar made his way to him and sat down. "I've brought your food, human. Payment is due." The human did not budge but uttered a gruff, "I didn't order any food." Kagar briefly flexed his scales upwards, both to vent his body's excess heat and as a sign of frustration. Amateurs infuriated him. He leaned closer to the human and hissed, "You know what I meant, and you know who I am. Payment, now." Without missing a beat, the human replied, "No, I don't know you, buddy." Kagar flexed his scales once more, much more obvious this time. "I am Kagar the Scab," he seethed, "and you know what I do to those who waste my time." For the first time, the human turned towards him and smiled, baring his repulsive yet comically blunted teeth. "I know. I just needed to hear you say it." The human stood, blocking the exit door, and pulled out a small badge. "Kagar the Scab Makra, you are under arrest for..." Before the human could finish his sentence, Kagar leapt to the ceiling. As he ascended, Kagar noticed the human had already begun reaching towards him, nearly catching his foot. An impressive reaction time, he thought, but not fast enough. Kagar landed on the ceiling, sticking to it briefly before jumping again towards the exit. As he burst through the door, Kagar noticed the human had already recovered from his failed tackle and was running towards him. Kagar ran through the alleyway, quickly outpacing the human. Ahead of him, a barred fence blocked the way, sealed with a lock he did not have time to breach. Kagar turned his body sideways and squeezed himself between the bars. A narrow fit, even for him, but his lead on the human gave him more than enough time. Kagar smiled at the thought of another successful escape and turned to taunt his pursuer. However, instead of stopping, the human continued to sprint before jumping sideways, placing his foot on the wall, then jumping off of it while reaching out for the top of the fence. In one fluid motion, the human pulled himself up and over the fence. Kagar immediately sprinted down the next alleyway, barely comprehending what he just saw. Did humans have adhesive setae too? It didn't matter at the moment. He could still outrun him. Kagar sprinted through alleyways, changing directions, knocking over as many objects as he could without stopping, anything to slow down the human. After a few minutes, Kagar turned his head but did not see the human. Suddenly, he became aware of the suffocating heat within his body, a sign of impending exhaustion. Kagar flexed his scales to cool off. He must have run over 1/4 of a mile to build up such heat. Never before had he expended so much energy on an escape. Just then, Kagar heard the quick rhythm of footsteps running towards him. As he turned, Kagar saw the human rapidly approaching, leaping and sliding over every obstacle before him. "Impossible," he huffed. No species could have recharged their stamina that quickly. Yet the human didn't even seem fazed. With no other option, Kagar relaxed his scales and sprinted forward again. If alleyways offered no safe haven, then perhaps it was time to climb. Kagar ran towards the nearest wall and jumped, his setae clinging to the surface. As he climbed, Kagar looked back and met the gaze of the human as he continued to run after Kagar. For the first time since he saw him, Kagar felt not disgust but fear. Even from this distance, Kagar could see the look in the human's eyes, a dead-set determination, as if he had locked on to Kagar, almost like a predator. Kagar shook off the feeling and climbed faster. It was not possible for this coddled, misbegotten freak of evolution to be a predator. As he reached the top of the building, Kagar vented his body heat once more, hopefully for the last time. Just then, he heard a clanging sound and rhythmic thumping from below. He glanced over the edge, expecting to see the human feebly attempting to climb or destroying his surroundings in frustration. Instead, he saw the human climbing, not along the wall as he had, but using objects, pipes, railings, and ledges to slowly ascend towards him. For a brief second, Kagar was stunned as he watched the human effortlessly jump from point to point, using his momentum, distributing his weight, and an uncanny flexibility in ways Kagar had never seen. "No," he wheezed. The end. Like and subscribe for more content.